So the National Rivers Hall of Fame was founded in 1985. Its mission is to collect, preserve, share the stories of the women and men who've done great things on the rivers of America. And we have a great exhibit at the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium in Dubuque, Iowa. It's amazing. Some of our Achievement Award winners, Sherry and Dan and others, Rick, I haven't seen him here, but visited this summer. And it's really inspirational to me to see the stories and to be able to read and see the pictures of the people that have impacted the rivers. And so I'm thrilled to be here today to announce our new Achievement Award winner. But before I do, I just wanted to make a couple statements. The Hall of Fame is supported by 30 members in 36 states. And as Aaron said, we welcome about 200,000 visitors to our Dubuque location. But we reach many, many more outside of our location. And what I've learned about museums is a museum educates. Riverworks Discovery educates. What people see when they come to our campus and they read about inspirational stories about Achievement Award winners and Hall of Fame winners is that they learn the impact that this industry has on the world. So that's really cool. Before we get to the video, I just wanted to mention that the Hall of Fame focuses on individuals who make contributions. The Achievement Award is recognition of those currently making an impact on the waterways. The Hall of Fame are those who have passed or have had a tremendous impact on the rivers of America. And so with that, today we are announcing Steve Golding as the 2023 National Rivers Hall of Fame Achievement Award honoree. Steve, before you come up, we have a video moderated by our founder, Jerry Ensign.
I'm Corky Bickle, Chair of the Board of the National Rivers Hall of Fame. The National Rivers Hall of Fame was created in 1985 after a 20-year search for the appropriate place to put it on the river. And it was decided that Dubuque couldn't have been a better place. The National Rivers Hall of Fame was created to tell the story of the men and women of the rivers of America.
Steve Golding started his river career at the age of 15, working on the dry docks at his father's company, Big River Shipyard. Steve's father, Thomas Golding, worked closely with the Brent family of Brent Towing in Greenville. Steve's first full-time job on the river was as a tankerman and licensed wheelman. Steve went on to lead the barge line at 23 years old, eventually selling it to Kirby Corporation in 1992. Not staying out of the barge industry for long, Steve founded Golding Barge Line in 1995. When it first opened, Golding Barge Line did not operate any boats. The company was just a barge leasing company. In 2001, Steve began operating again with leased horsepower. In 2004, Golding Barge Line built its first towboat, and it has grown that number to 31 towboats as of this year. The company also operates 66 tank barges. Along with the oil and gas cargoes, the company has recently ventured into the aggregate cargo space. Steve and his wife Melody have two sons, Austin and John Reed. Austin is married to Kirsten Golding, and they have one son, Whit Golding. Kirsten is expecting another child at the end of this year. Steve Golding credits the industry for acting as a big family to help each other out. This is a commitment that Steve holds himself to, speaking to government leaders about helping mariners and supporting programs that educate people about the maritime industry. The Golding family gives back often, including donating land to form a new park in Vicksburg, Mississippi, so the public can experience the breathtaking views of the riverfront. The Golding family hopes their donations keep communities engaged with the rivers, connecting people to their history and encouraging understanding of the importance of the river.
plaque, the wheel, presented to Steve Golding, honoring a life made on the river, November 14th, 2023.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the National River Hall of Fame for this tremendous honor, and special thanks to my wife, Melody. You know, being in this industry, being married to anybody in this industry is tough. You've been with me in the good times and the bad times and every step of the way, and I can't thank you enough. I couldn't have done it without you. We've been a team for a long time. You know, I might be the longest tenured guy still active in the tank barge industry. I've been in it for 51 and a half years. So it's not much I hadn't seen or heard in this sector. My dad, as the film said, came to Vicksburg in 1965. I'm going to give you just a few highlights of my career. He started a little shipyard. The reason he came to Vicksburg from Greenville, there wasn't a dry dock in Vicksburg, and built a brand new port at the time, and it didn't have a shipyard. So he decided Vicksburg would be the great place to build a shipyard. He didn't have the needed capital to build a shipyard from the ground up. So he went around town in Vicksburg. He got a car dealer, a jewelry store owner, 2 CPAs, 3 lawyers, and 1 local oil jobber that all wanted to invest with him. He took a 30% position, they took 70%, and they built Big River Shipbuilding. Well, in May of 1966, I'm 15 years old. I'm excited. I'm going to go to my first real job. I'm going to go to work in that shipyard this summer. I was so excited to get to punch a time clock. I walked in the shipyard, I found my card, punched that time clock. I went over to the machine shop, visiting with those guys in the machine shop. Then I walked over to the tool room. It was air conditioned. I got in the tool room, visited with those guys. Then I decided, well, I'm gonna go down to the dry dock and see what they're working on today. I eased on down there, just having a big time talking to those guys. After about a day and a half of that, cruising around the shipyard, my dad came up to me and he said, "Son, I hate to do this, but you're fired." I'm missing that $1.25 minimum wage big time at that point. And I said, "For what?" He said, "Well, for one thing, clothes you have on are way too nice to be working in a shipyard. You're not putting your hands on anything. Just go on and punch out, head home." That was a long ride home that day, back to that little apartment my parents were renting in Vicksburg. After 2 or 3 days of moping around home, I started pleading with him to give me another chance. I did that for a couple of days, and finally he said, "All right, son, I'm gonna give you one last chance." I was out there 30 minutes before it was time to punch in, and I've been getting it ever since. But that lesson he taught me as a 15-year-old paid dividends for the rest of my life. And I don't know where I would have wound up had he not done what he did. In 1969, he got the same group of local investors, along with the Brent family from Greenville, and he started Old Man River Towing. He diversified into the operation of boats and barges. Well, that was 1969. In 72, when I got out of Mississippi State, I started working on board the Martha May. My goal was to get my tanker's license, then get my pilot's license, and be a turn-loose pilot before I came into office. I did get my tanker's license. I was loading and unloading barges. I got my pilot's license. I was steering for over a year. And I never will forget, I was northbound up on the Ohio River at night. We didn't have cell phones back then, but I had Marine operator calls, and everybody in America could listen to your call if they wanted to. My dad called, and he said, "Look, the manager we've got running this little barge company just suddenly died unexpectedly. You gotta come in." I said, "For what?" He said, "Well, we don't have anybody to make out payroll checks." For one thing. And I said, "I don't know know how to make out a payroll check. And he said, son, you're the only one with a college degree. I think you can figure it out. He didn't tell me. So that was the end of my own board experience and beginning of my own shore experience. I'm 23 years old, and my dad said, look, I'm getting ready to retire. You're too young to run this company. We're gonna sell the company. And I got you a job lined up with Ingram Barge Line. At the time, Ingram was here in New Orleans. So you go on to work for Ingram, learn the business, and then maybe I'll back in, we'll start the one later on. So we started making sales calls to sell our little company. We had 2 boats and 4 barges. I was going with him on the sales calls. We would go make calls to people to see if they wanted to buy our little company. Every time we'd leave a meeting, I'd say, Dad, I can do this. I know I can do it. He said, you're too young, son. You just give yourself a few years and maybe we'll start it. Well, after a number of calls and we couldn't sell the company, he said, I'll tell you what, your mother and I are getting ready to retire to Diamond Head over at Bay St. Louis. We want to play golf 2 or 3 days a week. We want to play bridge 2 or 3 days a week. Good luck. And he left. So, it was a lot of pressure on me because I knew 85% of his net worth was in that little company.
Right.
And I had 8 partners in Vicksburg that were non-active that all wanted a dividend. So here I am, 23 years old, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get a job for this equipment when these contracts come up. There was a broker in Houston at the time named Bill Wainwright. Bill took me under his wing, taught me a lot about this rate structure, taught me a lot about my competitors. Back then, everything was on barrel rates, wasn't any day rates in the business. Bill taught me how to even figure a rate. And another gentleman that taught me a lot was Dave Cliver with Ashland Oil Company. Todd, you and David may remember Dave Cliver. I never will forget, one Monday morning he called me. We had a tow working for Ashland Oil. He called me and he said, he had that distinctive voice. He said, Steve, where is my equipment for Saturday and Sunday? And I said, Mr. Cliver, on Saturday we were mile so-and-so, on Sunday we were mile so-and-so, and today we're mile so-and-so. Man, I felt like I had it all at my fingertips. I had it. He said, Steve, you don't understand. I need to know each day, every day, where my equipment is, including Christmas. I said, Mr. Cliver, you'll never have to wonder ever again where your equipment is. But he taught me the importance of notification and being in communication with your shipper. I never will forget, that was 50 years ago, but I haven't forgot it now. But the way he talked to me made an influence on me. You know, back then I had some cards printed up that had BP on them. And I was running around Houston looking for a job, and I decided I'm gonna put BP on it so they'll think maybe there's some gray-haired president back in the office that knows more about this. 23-year-old kid out here trying to get a job for his equipment. But in actuality, there was nobody back in the office. But in 1980, at the age of 30, I bought out all my partners, which was a tremendous obstacle, and we got it done. And that was in 1980. In 81, this industry hit the longest and deepest downturn in the history of my 50 years in this business, from 81 to 86. It was a struggle. We lost a lot of operators during that period of time, and I had just bought out all my partners, and I was mortgaged to the hill. And I never will forget, in about 82, 83, the saying was, stay alive till 85. Well, it was a little past 85, it was 86 in my estimation before we got back in balance. So it was 5 years of a real struggle. I never will forget, in this Christmas 1983, Melanie and I didn't have children then. We had 5 boats, and every one of them were tied up in Vicksburg on Christmas Day. And every barge we had was tied up, and we had 0 income. But Melody and I decided we're gonna go down and have Christmas lunch with the crew members. We were trying to hold on to our core crew because I knew we got back going, I needed those guys. So we told them all, meet us on the biggest boat, we're gonna have Christmas together. And we did. We all went and had Christmas together, had Christmas lunch. I never will forget, Melanie and I were walking back up the hill. Who drives up but my bank president? And he looks down there and he sees all 5 boats tied up side by side, sees all our barges across the canal, looks at me and says, Steve, what in the world is going on? I said, don't worry, Mr. Lundy. Right after the first of the year, we're going back to work. And he said, oh, that's great. He drove off, and Melody looked at me and said, is that right? I said, I sure hope so. But we came out of it in 86. 92, had a great opportunity to sell out completely to Kirby Corporation. And we did. And I had a 3-year non-compete. During that time, my non-compete did not include South America. So having grown up part of my childhood in Guatemala, I felt very comfortable in Latin America. So I headed to South America. And I went to Venezuela first, looking at opportunities on the Orinoco River. They weren't as far left there 30 years ago as they are now, but it still didn't feel comfortable, and I could feel what was happening. So I left Venezuela and went down Argentina and Paraguay. While I was down there, I heard that my good friend Burton Lawrence of Hollywood Marine, then this was before Kirby, was also sending people to South America looking for opportunities. So I called Burton and I said, look, I grew up part of my childhood in Guatemala. I've been in the marine business for 20 years. We've known each other 20 years. Why don't we do this together? He said, I'd love to do a joint venture with you. So we teamed up and we went down to Argentina and Paraguay, Burton and I, looking for opportunities. We found a great one with an oil company that was going to let us move product from Buenos Aires to Ascension. But when we got to Paraguay, everybody had their hand out. And it was going to be difficult to do business unless you paid each one of them a tax, they called it. And so we packed up and we came home, and that was the end of our South American exploration because neither Burton nor myself wanted to do business like that. When my non-compete ran out in 95, I bought some tank barges and built some more, and I was just bareboating them out for a number of years. And quite frankly, I got bored to death doing it. Just wasn't enough action. You lease a barge out for a year or two, and that was it. And so after a while, I decided I want to get back in the freight business. So in 01, that's what we did. We got back going from point A to point B. Today we're running 31 boats and 70 tank barges. And we have our son, Austin, running the company. And quite frankly, he's doing a fantastic job. Probably better, if not a lot better, than I did at that age. And if we didn't have Austin, I probably would call Kirby again. Probably would have already called them to see if they were interested in buying another Golden Goalie. But thank you very, very much for letting me speak to you about my career. And thanks, National River Hall of Fame for this tremendous support. Thank you all.